Hey there guys, Lavon here today, and we are going to be talking about Fallout 4. This is a game theory that I've been working on since I was first exploring the underwater content that was in the game. I did keep two things to myself when I did publish what I did find underwater, and I wanted to take time away from the game and then come back and revisit these items that I did find and see if there was a little bit more to it or if there was actually nothing there at all. During my time off, I did go and play Just Cause 3. I did the underwater exploration, basically the same thing I did in Fallout 4. And surprisingly, for a game that's insanely large, it did have less content than Fallout 4 did, given its last portion of the DLC for it does include the C portion of the game, so we will hopefully see a little bit more there. After that, I came back to Fallout, and as you can see here, I've finally been working on my settlements in the game. You can check those out as well if you'd like to. But anyway, let's get to what we're talking about today in Fallout. The first portion that we're going to talk about is the water current that is in the game. And while this is the most dismissible portion of my theory, I do think we still need to note what it is. So if you look at the water, or if you jump in it, you'll see that the current is flowing one way, but it's actually pulling you in a different way of the current. There are three different areas it will pull you to. You have one that will give you a southwestern pull, one that gives you a northeastern pull. This all depends if you're either on the left or the right side of Sanctuary Lake. As you can see here, we're actually going to be pulled in the northeastern portion. If you can find a tire, which seems to be everywhere in Fallout, you get behind it and you'll notice very clearly where it's being pulled. Get behind it like so, and just try to keep that center dot as close to the middle of that tire as you can. And once you've done that, you will notice where that item is being pulled towards. And once again, you can notice that it's going opposite of the current. So this is going more northeastern. Here is another one. Like I said, tires are everywhere in this game. Throw it down in the water, get behind it. You'll see yet again where it's being pulled to. And like I said, these tires are everywhere. They're either going to be around the bay, or they'll just plop up in the water, as you'll see in the next video. Same deal, get behind it, see where it's being pulled towards. This one is a southeastern pull, which is ever so slightly to the southeast. For our third one here, you're going to see another pool. What's kind of interesting here is you see all those splashes of water. Those are all tires going from the bottom of the ocean floor to the top. I don't know why, but the tires are sitting on the bottom of the ocean. If you get near them whatsoever, then it gives you they just all come up. I don't know why it's like that wherever there is water in the game, actually. So here you can see this one's going fairly north. This is the one that helps you form a point to where they're going towards. Like I said, there's one in Sanctuary and it's going straight south. Most of these pull dramatically towards the southwest, but if you go to the southeastern portion of the map, it actually starts to pull more towards the west. Now here is a map of just the ley lines that I found. We're going to focus on where the blue and the green lines connect in the game. The other ones really didn't seem to have anything of importance. And like I said, this is the most dismissible portion, but what we find as far as number wise may be used later with the buoys, and we'll talk about that in a minute as well. So just barely south where these two lines first intersect, you find the O'Neill Family Manufacturing. If you do go in this building, in the bottom portion of it, you find one terminal that does give you 3 sets of numbers. Maybe this could be used for activating certain buoys later, but as of right now, this may just be all coincidence for the first portion. The buoys is probably the best part of this theory. Here's the Sentinel site. This is where they were testing nuclear bombs just before the explosion happened. Once again, this area doesn't really seem to be anything of use. I thought maybe if you followed this in a line going out, it would lead. So this is where it's all going to get a little bit interesting. We're going to talk about the main portion of the theory, which is that the buoys directly relate to summoning the Ghoul Whale in the game. There's a bunch of these bells in the game. We'll get on that in a little bit. We have a few different types of them. You have red, you have green, you have some with the bell, some without the bell, some without the bell, but the bell can actually be found right next to it. And some are even out of bounds. As you'll see here, you'll have to pull out a gun with an actual scope to be able to see them. And we'll come back to this area, so do remember it more at the end of the video. So why are these bells so important? They were in Fallout 3's Lookout Point DLC, and there were 10 of them. Each of these had items underneath them, various forms of loot, so they did have a purpose. Now you have 74 of them that I have found in the game so far. So 74 is actually a lot of buoys to find or to be in the game, in the water, anywhere for that matter. And you'll see why in just a moment. So really, in real life, there are only 3 buoys that are in Boston. And this is a very large area, so you do have to scale it down. And Bethesda does have a way of them actually using things in real life in the game. So the real question is, are these 3 buoys in the game? And they actually are. As you'll see, you have one in this little inlet area, which is just south of where the Yangzte Submarine is. And right here, you'll see it's very, very close to touching the map. And it is that western one in the game, or in real life. That's where it would be in the real world, and here is where it would be in the game. So they're very, very close. The second of the 3 would be just east of that. So if you were to go all the way to the east, directly east from where we once were, take out your gun, you would see that there is in fact a second one out there, which could be coincidence, could not, but it does start to build on itself just a little bit more as you see once we get out there. So once we get out here and we finally jump on it, these things are rather tricky to jump on, you'll see there's a dead fish on it. And that dead fish is looking somewhere off into the distance. And if you do follow it, it does lead to a second one with a dead fish on it. This one, if you follow it straight out to where it's pointing at, it will take you to another one with yet just another dead fish on it, pointing you towards another of the buoys. And this actually leads you to the third buoy that's in real life. And these are all set up very close to how they are in the real world. You have the one right next to the dock, then you have the one just east of it, and also a little bit to the north. And then the third one from the second one's location is actually just to the northeast of it. So here we come to the last of the 3 buoys that do have fish on them. And they can be a little bit tricky to jump on top of. So this is the last of the 3. And as you can see, it does point to one that is out of bounds. And like I said, you can just shoot them and it does ring off. Nothing happened for me when I followed this path here. I've tried several different combinations for what I would think it would be. I didn't get anything as of yet. I do think there was either something here and it was cut, or there is still a Easter egg for these buoys, since they do seem to have some form of purpose in this game, since they had one in Fallout 3. And it's just a matter of time before someone actually cracks it and finds out. And since I've hit a wall with it, I want to get the community, I want to get Reddit on here and see if someone can find a little bit more information to how we're going to pull this off, if it can be pulled off. Like I said, there are 74 of them so far that I have found and marked on the map for you for earlier. If there were to be more, which I do assume there are, I would imagine you're either going to find 88 total for the year the game takes place, or 111 coming from the vault that we first explored, unless they want to do a tie-in to Fallout 3 and say there are 101 of the buoys. If there is a combination that needs to be hit, I would imagine that either something like the time that you see frozen everywhere in the game where the nuke first went off would play a role, or those numbers that we pulled off from the O'Neill factory earlier that I'll post what those are would play a combination that you would type in and then you actually summon that Ghoul Whale. Since I do think it's in the game, I don't think it's just the Yangzte Submarine, which everyone seems to think that it is. And keep in mind, there are NPCs in the game that talk about seeing a whale and actually seeing it jump out of the water. And the submarine, last I checked, doesn't do that to the best of my knowledge. I am on PS4, so I do not have the luxury of PC and just being able to download the mod to remove the water. So if there are people on PC who do want to help out, one of the ways you could do that is just install that mod, fly around the water, and see if there are any underneath the water. Since last I checked, and I did go through the 300 something pictures I took of my underwater pictures, I didn't see a buoy in there, but I vaguely remembered there being one on the ocean floor somewhere. There are also bells in the game that are on certain docks. Those may or may not play a role in this, but so far I'm really just going to focus on the buoy portion of this and finding all of them. And like I said, if you do want to help, feel free to leave a comment with any information you may have. I'll also throw up a link to the Reddit post if it does get enough of interest, and see what we can do as far as coordinating it to go from there. Thank you guys so much for coming. If you want to stay tuned for more, please subscribe so you can see this unfold, if we're going to find anything or not. If you want to check out my other videos, feel free. I'll throw some of those up. And if you liked what you saw, feel free to throw up a like as well. Thank you guys so much for your support that you've given so far in the game, and we'll see you guys later.